Oh man, so I'm not gonna lie, it's been kind of rough for me in terms of looking on Twitter and trying to see the quotes from Kent Hughes, the new Montreal Canadiens GM. Because I'll tell you right here, I didn't watch the press conference in its full capacity there. It just kind of happened in the background as I was going about my day. But while I was scrolling through Twitter looking at all the quotes, every time I saw a Kent Hughes quote pop up, I had to do a double, triple take saying, okay, why is Hughes talking about the Canadiens and rebuilding? Oh, that's right, it's Kent Hughes. It's been so tough for me because whenever I see the word Hughes, I automatically think one of Quinn, Jack, or Luke. And no, I'm not talking about Jack Kent Hughes' son, I'm talking about Jack Hughes on the Devils. Oh, why is it a bad thing that Hughes is talking about a rebuild? Oh wait, it's because it's the Montreal GM Hughes. So yeah, that's been the biggest problem on my mind the past few days here, but either way, let's go over what Ken Hughes said yesterday in the inaugural press conference for the Montreal Canadiens' newest general manager, where he plans to go with the team, and how oddly similar this press conference was to Marc Bergevin's very first conference all those years ago. Actually, you know what? Screw the and. Let's actually start off with that. So, I'm going to go over onto my friend Max's Twitter account. This is at WooMax. He's a guy on Twitter. He posts Habs stuff. He's a pretty good dude, and he does some pretty good graphic design stuff as well. He had this Twitter thread yesterday, or not yesterday, today actually, from 2 a.m. in the morning, that I came across when researching the quotes to use in this video. Kent Hughes basically gave us the same press conference as Marc Bergevin 10 years ago, word for word, bar for bar. That's one of my favorite memes of all time, by the way. So, in this thread, he goes over a whole bunch of quotes from Hughes, and he compares them with quotes that Marc Bergevin had 10 years ago, too. Kent Hughes says yesterday, "This is somewhat a homecoming for me, and I'm proud to be back with the team of my childhood." Bergevin, in his first press conference, said, "I'm emotional because it's the Montreal Canadiens. I grew up here watching the Canadiens, I'm proud of it, and I'm going to enjoy it." Okay, that's one similarity there. "The word doesn't matter to me," Kent Hughes says. "Whether it's rebuild, reset, my vision is to build a team that can win for years." 10 years ago, Molson said this, "Today marks the first step towards bringing back a winning culture to our organization. Our priorities are as follows. Improve the team in the short term, re-establish a winning culture over the long term." Okay, that's kind of the same. "Give our fans what they deserve, the best possible product on the ice, and establish stability in all areas of the organization." We then had the word that Kent Hughes is going to try to go out there and draft Quebecers because he wants Quebecers in the Montreal Canadiens organization, which is similar to what Bergevin said too. "The QMJHL is here in our backyard. My vision is to put people in place to make sure we don't miss guys from Quebec. The goal is to win, but there are good Quebec players all around the league, and we'll do the best we can to not miss them. Right now we have one Quebec scout. We'll have more than one. It's a priority for me. We'll start with that." Okay, that's one of the more, direct ones. And then you have this quote over here too. Kent Hughes says this, "I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't confident in being the GM of the Montreal Canadiens. Marc Bergevin 10 years ago said, I took this job first of all because I know I'm ready. If I wasn't ready for this challenge, I wouldn't be here today." Oh boy, word for word, bar for bar, eh? So even though there is somewhat of a funny similarity between Kent Hughes' press conference yesterday and Marc Bergevin's initial press conference 10 years ago, there are still some things that we can go over and talk about when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens' brand new executive. We're going over onto Reddit and reading all the quotes because they have a very good thread that has pretty much everything on the line. It says, okay, this is a quote from Engels, from Emmerich, from Arpon Basu, and all the people, and it's just labeled out pretty well, so we're going to go over some of the things that I think are interesting. Molson said, "We interviewed 11 candidates, narrowed things down to 3 candidates, and me and Jeff met with them. Over the weekend, we decided on our new general manager." Kent Hughes said that he just got offered the job on Monday and had to negotiate the contract. He has a lot of people to meet. He's going to meet the team in Vegas to get to know the players. As much people as player, what the heck does that mean? And then get to know everyone with the organization. And then it's time to focus on the trade deadline. They also touched on the idea of Jeff Gorton being friends with Kent Hughes, and the reason they talked about this is because after Hughes was hired, there was kind of a sentiment going around saying, oh, what was the need to interview all these guys, you know? 10 plus people getting interviewed, and Kent Hughes is the guy that Gorton is somewhat familiar with. He got interviewed last, and then he gets the job. This is just Jeff Gorton hiring his own people, man. What's going on here? And so they talked about that in the press conference. Jeff Gorton said, "No offense, but Kent is not my best friend." He said they know each other dating back to Patrice Bergeron's entry-level deal. They've spoken a couple times a week for 20 years and have never really socialized outside of hockey. He also said Gorton and him discussed joining the Rangers back in the day, but the conversation was short because he wasn't prepared to leave his agency, Kent Hughes was. What changed, though, with this situation is that it's Montreal and not New York instead. Gorton says that he likes what he felt from Kent Hughes. He likes the way that Kent Hughes feels that the team needs to be run. And then when it comes to coaching, this is what they say about that matter. He has views of what makes a good modern-day head coach. He says he would like to get to know Dominic Ducharme more and see where things go from there. So, right now, we don't really know what the future holds in store for Ducharme. We do know that he took the team to the finals, yada yada yada, this and that, but come on. That was a few months ago. Now is a different time. Aside from coaching, though, there also are indeed some more hires that the Canadiens are going to have to go out there and make. Hughes says this: "I'm perfectly open to who will be the assistant GMs of this team. I'm going to discuss it with Gorton, and then we'll identify candidates. As for timing, the most important thing is we choose the right people, not that we choose them right away." Hughes also doubled down on his belief that advanced analytics are very important, or advanced statistics, so there you go. If you're going to go out there and expect the Montreal Canadiens to take a more analytical approach to building their hockey team, hopefully Ken Hughes is going to be the introductory GM that allows that to happen. And honestly, based off of my experience with the Vancouver Canucks and Mike Gillis was a former agent who became a GM himself too, and him and Gilman, their approach for building the 2011 Canucks was pretty analytically driven, so just kind of seeing the parallels over here, you know? An agent who becomes a GM of a Canadian organization taking over a team that isn't really that great. I mean, of course, the Canadiens today are a lot worse than the Vancouver Canucks were when Gillis took over back in the day, but just seeing the analytical approach from an agent going over to a Canadian market, that's a pretty nice little parallel over there that, at the very least, I thought was worth mentioning in some capacity. Wrapping up, though, Kent Hughes does say that there are already interesting pieces on the roster that he believes can be built around, so I think we can kind of fill in the blanks as to who those are. You could talk about Nick Suzuki, you could probably talk about Cole Caulfield if you don't want to go out there and say that the guy's a bust like everybody else is. Everybody outside of Montreal, that is, because, yeah, he's not producing. That's a joke, by the way. He's gonna be fine. I believe he's gonna be fine. Romanov is probably in there too. You still have yourselves the goaltending duo that is kind of fractured since Carey Price has not returned yet. Speaking about Carey Price, this is what Molson said about him. "I'm wishing for him to be healthy, and I hope he comes back healthy because he's one of the best goaltenders in the world. Yeah, I kind of wish for him to be healthy and hope that he comes back healthy as well, especially only if he's healthy." By the way, did I mention that he's got to be healthy? So that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about here about Kent Hughes and the new general manager stuff with the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, there are a lot more quotes. This entire thing on Reddit just goes over everything that is compiled, and so if you want to go ahead and read every individual quote, the link will be in the description below. There are indeed some other things here, just going over the same things. Jeff Gorton is not hiring his friends. Jeff Molson has belief in these guys, and he wants Price to be okay. Kent Hughes just said pretty much everything that needed to be said. I don't really think that he did a bad job or that he did a fantastic job. I just kind of think that he did what he needed to do. His actions are going to speak louder than words here, especially heading towards the trade deadline, whether or not that means a Ben Sherratt trade, or a trade of Carey Price, or a trade of Jake Allen, or an Arturi Lehkonen trade. Who really knows what's going to go on here with the Montreal Canadiens, but this upcoming trade deadline is going to be pretty significant in terms of establishing where we are going with this team, and Kent Hughes is pretty much going to be the guy to dictate that direction. Of course, with the guidance of Gorton, too. He's going to be there, sticking around and still having conversations, of course. So talk to me in the comments, what do you think about Kent Hughes and the things that he said in yesterday's press conference? Are you excited? Are you motivated in seeing where this team is going to go? Are you optimistic? That's probably the biggest question that I think can stir up the most meaty conversation amongst Canadiens fans. Are you optimistic about what Kent Hughes is going to do? Is it too early to say? Who really knows? Also, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about Kent Hughes and his conference being really similar to Marc Bergevin and his comments that he made 10 years ago when Bergevin was hired. I know some people probably would have gotten a laugh out of that, which is why I decided to include in this video. Either way, talk to me in the comments, all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And Bye.